case isn't concluded yet.
Tempers flare at the George Zimmerman trial.
Your objection is overruled.
His attorney objected a couple times to the judge's own questions.
Overruled. The court is entitled to inquire.
You can't really object to the judge's own questions.
The defense then called its first witness today, Dennis Root, a use of force expert,
Who says Zimmerman would have been at a physical disadvantage.
What are your thoughts then on the comparison between the two individuals?
He compared the physical fitness of these two men.
Comparing the physical abilities as far as the physical abilities. His physical size.
That George Zimmerman was no match for him.
What are we going to see from the prosecution side? Will there be some redirects?
You've never testified in a case like this. That's not your normal practice, right? You would agree with that, right?
The defense in the George Zimmerman trial rested today.
Then it will move to closing arguments,
Setting the stage for closing arguments, which start tomorrow.
After 5 days of testimony, the defense rested its case today in the second-degree murder trial of George Zimmerman. But before it did, Judge Deborah Nelson asked the defendant if he was planning to testify.
Have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in the case?
I object to that question. I think that's Mr.
Overruled. The court is entitled to inquire of Mr. Zimmerman's determination as to whether or not he wants to testify. Mr. Zimmerman, have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in this case?
No, not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, and when is it that how long do you think you need before you make that decision?
Your Honor, may we have an opportunity to speak? The case isn't concluded yet.
I understand that, and I've asked Mr. Zimmerman if he needed more time to talk to his attorneys, and if he does, I will afford it to him. Mr. Zimmerman, how much more time do you think you're going to need to discuss this with your attorneys?
I assume it would depend on how long the recesses are, Your Honor. At the end of the day.
Okay, well, if your attorneys have finished with 2 witnesses before the end of the day, do you think that you would then know whether or not you want to testify?
Your Honor, on Mr. Zimmerman's behalf, that decision...
I am asking your client questions. Please, Mr. West.
I object to the court inquiring of Mr. Zimmerman as to his decision about whether or not to testify.
Your objection is overruled. Mr. Zimmerman, I will give you more time, sir, to discuss this with your attorneys. Thank you very much.
And after that very strange interlude, about 2 hours later, George Zimmerman confirmed what most court observers already assumed.
Did you now have sufficient time to discuss with your attorneys whether or not you wanted to testify in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I don't need to know what was said, but after those discussions, have you made a decision?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is your decision, sir?
After consulting with counsel, not to testify, Your Honor.
Joining me now, MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Bloom, Faith Jenkins, and former criminal prosecutor and former prosecutor Marcia Clark. Lisa, there's so many things.
I object to that question.
Yeah, you do? Am I allowed to ask questions? So the judge is not allowed to ask questions?
When the judge asks a question, you're supposed to answer it. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah, but what were the defense lawyers so nervous about in that exchange between the judge and Zimmerman?
Well, first of all, you can see why they didn't put Zimmerman on the stand, right? He can't answer a simple question in a straightforward way. I think they were expecting this to come a little later after the close of the defense evidence. She preempted that. She's trying to move this along because it's a sequestered jury. And so they were caught unawares. And this is usually a relatively pro forma thing. The judge just rattles off the questions. You understand your rights. You're waiving your rights. You're not going to testify. Yes, 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 we're done. And instead, Zimmerman didn't really know what to say. And his lawyer, God bless him, is jumping in and trying to defend his client.
Marcia Clark, give us your assessment of what Zimmerman not testifying actually means to this jury.
You know, this is one of these things, Lawrence, where the jurors are always curious about what a defendant has to say. They kind of want to hear the other side of the story and how he'll tell it. So when they don't hear it, they're always a little disappointed, maybe. But in this case, they've heard so much of his statements coming in through the prosecution's case, as well as other witnesses who testified in the defense case, that there isn't that much mystery to what he would say on the witness stand. So while I think there will be some disappointment, I don't know that it's going to be held against him. I don't think it will. I don't think it's actually ultimately going to matter.
Faith, how do you think Zimmerman not testifying affects the closing arguments in the case?
Well, there's so much out. His statements are already out there. I mean, it's the defense attorney's goal to try their case within a prosecutor's case and put their theory of the case forward. They've been able to do that, and all they have to do is establish reasonable doubt. So that's what they're going to focus on. They're going to focus on his statements and corroborating those statements with the evidence put forward in their case and also in the prosecutor's case. So that's what they're going to focus on.
We had testimony like I've never seen before from a so-called fighting expert today who testified to a fight that he wasn't in and testified about here's what happened in a fight where the two fighters will not be testifying because one of them's dead and one of them's not going to take the witness stand. And I want to go to that testimony, especially something that prosecutor Attorney Guy did using a dummy to, in effect, use this witness as the George Zimmerman stand-in. Let's look at the way this worked.
Well, here's his belly button. Am I in the area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. By the way, did you have the defendant do this?
No, sir.
When you talked to him, you didn't have him do that?
No, sir.
Okay. If this person, this mannequin, were carrying a firearm on their waist, where would the gun be right now in relation to me?
Would be at your left inner thigh.
Right here, right?
Yes. If he was right-handed, it would be at your left inner thigh. Yes, sir.
Right. Underneath my leg.
Yes, inside your leg.
Okay. Were you aware that the defendant described to his best friend that when he slid down, the defendant slid down, that Trayvon Martin was up around his armpits? Were you aware of that?
No, I've not heard that. No, sir.
Okay. Well, where would the gun be now?
Now the gun would be behind your left leg.
Establishes a couple of things, Lisa. One, the guy who's supposed to, this defense witness who's supposed to know all the facts from the defense doesn't know about that little thing about the armpits. But Mr. Guy wanted the jury looking at that saying, how does he get the gun out with this position? Was that an effective moment for prosecution?
It was okay. In my opinion, once again, the prosecution didn't drive it home. He didn't point out that George Zimmerman in the reenactment video appears to reach behind and demonstrate that the holster was behind him. It wouldn't have been anywhere near anybody's left thigh, as this witness tries to say. It would have been embedded in the grass, inside his pants, with a shirt and jacket covering it. That has never been pointed out to this jury. I think that's a big problem. The other thing is that the prosecution is going with the defense theory of the case, that George Zimmerman is down. That's a very bad theory for the prosecution. He's down. He's getting beaten. I think many people could say in that situation, it's understandable, he would pull a gun, even shoot the gun. Why not bring out the other theory? Stand that dummy up. Have them be standing, both vertical, as many eyewitnesses have testified that there were two men standing, that there were two men running. How about putting George Zimmerman on the top, as several witnesses have testified? Give the jury a visual of the prosecution theory of the case. They missed that opportunity.
Faith, one of the things I was thinking about during that part of the testimony was the defense has spent a lot of time on George Zimmerman is a wimp. George Zimmerman cannot throw a punch. He can barely clench his fist. He is not athletic. He has trouble walking down the street, apparently. They make him a physical incompetent in the most extreme possible way. And they're saying this extreme physical incompetence on his back with the legs basically trapping the Trayvon Martin's legs trapping the gun. That physical incompetent guy somehow got that gun out.
And where are his hands? What are his hands doing during this entire encounter? That's what the defense isn't accounting for. I mean, he may not be the most physically fit person, but still, he can use his hands to maneuver. But Lisa, to your point on what you said, I think that what John Guy was doing there, they're showing that the prosecution isn't wed to any particular theory about the positioning here when Trayvon and George Zimmerman's altercation, but they're saying the defendant's theory is simply implausible.
Yeah, I know, but I'm tired of hearing about the defendant's theory. It's time for the prosecution to have a theory. Closing arguments are tomorrow.
Think about what they're going to argue. Two people in this altercation, one's dead, one is a liar. That's going to be their theme throughout their entire closing arguments tomorrow, and that's why they use
But the prosecution has the burden of proof.
That today.
They need to have a theory of the case, and they need to put it forward in front of the jury with some confidence, not just be continually going on the defense script.
If the jury does not believe George Zimmerman, he gets convicted.
Marcia Clark, the jury is faced with a dead 17-year-old and a decision made by an adult male. What burden, even though we understand in jurisprudence the burden of proof is on the prosecution and all that, but the truth is juries do impose certain burdens on actors in litigation at different stages. And what is your sense of the burden that the jury places on George Zimmerman in making his decision to use the death of Trayvon Martin as his retaliation move against whatever the notion is of what Trayvon Martin was doing to him?
You know, in a general sense, the jury hopefully brings a common sense view of things to bear on all of the questions of fact that are put before them. So, you know, you have this situation where this man who lives in the neighborhood, his neighborhood watch, has a command of the location, is in his SUV, engine running, lights on, when he sees someone he describes as a kid walking down the walkway. And, you know, right away you have this man who knows he's armed with a gun, who knows the neighborhood, and sees somebody he describes as a kid, and he's calling the cops, and he's making sure the cops are coming. So he's got all of the power and all of the weight behind him, if you will. And he gets out of the car, and supposedly to see the street name, which, by the way, I do not buy, in a small location like that with only 3 streets, that he doesn't remember the name of one of 3 streets where he lives and walks his dog and his neighborhood watch. So already, you know, I think the jury would look at that with common sense and say, okay, look, he's hunting this guy down. And he feels confident in doing that because he knows he's armed. And he feels confident because he knows the cops are coming. And then he gets into a tussle with him. However that happened. I mean, if you believe Rachel Jeantel, which I happen to, it happened because George Zimmerman confronted him and was the aggressor in the situation. And then a fight ensued of some kind. And when he saw that he was losing the fight, he shot him. In my opinion, at that moment, the jury has to believe that he reasonably had to believe in imminent death, and reasonably believed he was about to die, and therefore had no choice but to shoot him. But I think that the weight of the evidence shows, including Zimmerman's own statement, where he says he's able to get his hands free, even if you believe, and this is why I didn't mind the demonstration that John Guy did with the dummy in court today, even if you take his very best scenario, you take his words, it doesn't make any sense. Because George Zimmerman said he could pull one hand free, and he moved Trayvon's hand away from his face. And then he pulled the other hand free, and that's when he was able to pull the gun out. If you have both hands free, why can't you just push the guy off you? I'm hoping the jury will bring that common sense to it, looking at Zimmerman as the one who is the older, the more aware of the situation, and aware of his power in having the gun and the police on the way.
The key phrase I just heard from Marcia in that is no choice. That for George Zimmerman, it had to come down to absolutely no choice other than to kill. Is this jury of mothers going to believe that there was no choice and no other possible way to handle this 17-year-old?
Listen, this is all very rational and logical, but I think if the jury thinks that Zimmerman is down and he got his head pounded on the concrete even a couple times and he got punched in the face, and it is hard if you're down and you're grappling and somebody's on top of you to get off. I think if the jury has that image in their mind as the final image before he takes out the gun and shoots, there's going to be an acquittal. I think the prosecution cannot accept that as the final moments of Trayvon Martin.
Which is why the prosecutor is going to argue and focus on the fact that George Zimmerman is the initial aggressor. That's going to be their argument here. He was the initial aggressor when he approached and confronted Trayvon. So what? Trayvon's on top. 1 minute you're on top, 1 minute you're on the bottom in a fight. He was the initial aggressor and started the confrontation. That's going to be their argument.
All right, we're going to hold it there. We're going to come back.